Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 6 of Wildcat Wisdom. We're going to start the show off this week with some devastating news. Friday, Cam posted in League Alerts that a great member of our league passed away, Rich Pratchard from Vancouver. It's just very saddening. I didn't know him personally, but he was brilliant on the mic. He brought a level of excellence when broadcasting, and he was overall just a great person and a great teammate.
Yeah, he's one of the voices I heard when I first started kind of getting into the league. So it's definitely a loss to the SFL family.
It is. We're gonna do a 86-second moment of silence to represent Rich's legacy and his number. Now we'll start now. Rest in peace, Rich. We will miss you dearly. Now getting into the league scores. The first game of the week was St. Louis versus the Lone Star Glory. St. Louis losing this game now, dropping to 3-3 as Lone Star going 3-3. Khalil, any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I got to give total props to Lincoln Kingseed and Freddie Tremmel, 10 tackles apiece. Shout out to the defense, Lone Star with a big win against St. Louis.
Yeah, and St. Louis only had 39 rushing yards, and Vasquez having a terrible day. 4 interceptions. Day, McGuire, and Kingseed from Lone Star each having an interception. The next game, Tulsa traveling to Sussex Falls, losing 31-17. The big thing that stood out to me was the time of possession in Khalil. Tulsa only held the ball for 14 minutes and 51 seconds. Sussex Falls held the ball for almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, when you hold the ball that long, you have your offense kind of running, and you have a running game. I feel like the running game kind of keeps the ball out of your opponent's hands. Here, Tulsa just did not seem to be. It seemed like a lot of passing, a lot of throwing, a lot of incompletions, which leads to a time possession disadvantage that was honestly in this league is kind of unheard of. But great game. Colin Hart had a big game, 2 touchdowns on the ground. 7 turnovers among the teams, though. Once we talk about turnovers a lot on this show and how big an impact they really make.
Yeah, and Sussex Falls is 70% on third down, so it's hard to stop a team when they're converting 7 out of 10 on third down. The next game, London, another loss, dropping to 0-6. They actually gave Atlanta a run for their money, I thought, but Atlanta won 37-27.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Angus McLean, 392, 3 touchdowns for London. They just weren't able to overcome Bryant Dynasty, 387. And BDG Hollywood out of the backfield, 10 catches, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns. The running game of Atlanta is still a problem, but we see their star running back getting catches out of the backfield doing his thing that way.
Yeah, and if he can get an open space, he's gone. And a big shout out to Atlanta's new wide receiver, Kendra Hall. She had 3 receptions in this game. I hope you have a successful career. The next game, Portland. This was my game of the week right here. Portland finally getting their first victory in franchise history, winning 20-17. Down 17-3 in the fourth quarter. Portland scores 20 unanswered points. Houston got a bit conservative at the end. It couldn't really do anything. It was actually a defensive battle to start the game, and a big shout out to Art Vandelay and Connor Weston. Huge games for those wide receivers.
Right. Matt South, the quarterback, getting Portland their first franchise win, popping bottles
Yes,
in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Portland on their first win.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the owner for Portland shotgunning some beers. That was awesome.
Listen. First franchise win. It's a big win. It's a comeback win. So you shotgun, sir.
This is another game of the week for me. Just the game for Vancouver, their first home game after Rich Pratchard passing away. I want to give a big credit to the entire SFL family for attending this game and really, supporting Vancouver and the Pratchard family.
Yeah, it's a tough week when you lose someone close on, and this is a family. And your family, you lose someone that close, and they failed Mexico City, but obviously they had heavy hearts. So it's a tough game for the franchise to get through. They got through it, and hopefully, they're able to recover, and not just recover not from this game, but also the death of someone that's really close to the franchise.
Yeah, it was really special to see Rich Pratchard catch that touchdown in the end zone. Matt Wilson from Mexico City went 27 for 29. That's an over 90% completion rate. Like Vancouver just couldn't stop him.
It reminded me of Phil Simms in the Super Bowl against Denver and how accurate he was. Same thing. And I talk about it a lot, how quarterbacks sometimes you don't have to throw the ball 85 times. Take what you can get, and success happens. I'm going to talk about this later on, too, about the power rankings. Mexico City smoked us, Chicago, in the first week. That's going to play this game, and this win is going to play a role into our power rankings later on.
Next game, actually, Mexico City is now 4-2, Vancouver 3-3. Next game, Las Vegas traveling to Queen City, losing 31-17. Tom Rahman had a rough day. He was sacked 7 times.
Jeff Duffy got 4 of those sacks. A.J. Coswell, 421 yards and 4 touchdowns passing. 16 catches, 171, and 2 touchdowns for Deezer Powell. So, listen, Queen City, one of those teams that could maybe make a run towards the end of the season.
Yeah, they're a team to watch, and there's like 9 teams tied at 3-3 right now. So, it's still wide open. Any team, including Queen City, can come out and make a big run to the playoffs. Next game was Chicago at Carolina. No score in the first quarter. And actually, Carolina blocked a 51-yard field goal. Credit to their special teams. They played well all day. The first score of the game was Robert Johnson, 3-yard touchdown. Congratulations to him for his first career rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and coming in, listen, you're taking over for Ash Odom, who was a centerpiece of this offense. So it's huge shoes for Johnson to kind of fill. He got his first touchdown in SFL, and we were up early, 7-0.
Yeah, and that Carolina blocked the extra point. Later in the second quarter, Carolina marching downfield. Sully Richardson, 63-yard pass to Heath McDaniel Jr. Just horrible coverage by the secondary.
Yeah, it occasionally – we saw this early, not so much recently, but it kind of reared its ugly head a couple times in this game, especially on the touchdown pass. 63 yards. Secondary, we didn't look that great this week.
No, and I thought that was really the key to the game because, Carolina doesn't really run the ball. So, you had to stop Sully Richardson, and we didn't do that. Third quarter, Rob Adams kicks a 22-yard field goal. Fourth quarter was all Carolina. Sully Richardson, a 7-yard touchdown pass to Harish Prasad. And then on their last drive, they were on like a 5-minute drive. The defense could knock it off the field. They kicked the field goal, but at the end of the game, Chicago did march downfield, but Rochelle Colston made a great interception and sealed the deal for Carolina.
Yeah, once again in this game, you definitely saw I would say a little bit of wonky play calling here. It was a lot of rushing. We saw this last week. A lot of running plays. You started to see E.T. King throwing the ball, especially in that second half, kind of like last week as well. And you saw the flash of E.T. King. And then that last drive, especially that interception that he threw, we were inside the 5. We ran the ball a lot. Didn't run the ball there, and then we threw it and got the interception. So I think we're still trying to work some of his kinks out on offense, especially with Ash Odom. Remember, Ash Odom not being around anymore is going to kind of wreaks havoc with a playbook. So we kind of have to figure things out on the fly a little bit last week, and hopefully this week we kind of figured it out.
Yeah, and give credit to Robert Johnson for his first game running the ball 37 times. E.T. King going 9 for 28, 143 yards, and 1 interception. Didn't have a good day. Robert Johnson carried the ball 37 times, 147 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's a lot for, a rookie in his first game and week 5.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we don't wear the young guy down early. Like, let's keep him fresh for that stretch run. But he ran the ball with a lot of authority. The difference I saw with him, Ash had some power, but he also has a lot of speed behind him. Johnson seems to be that bruising back, kind of like a Jerome Bettis type. Yep. And I feel like with that, you don't want to run him too much because you're going to wear him down for the tail end of the season.
Corey Carter, 6 receptions for 55 yards, and the defensive player of the game for Chicago was Clint Hendershot, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 pass deflection. We will be taking on Charleston, who is 2-4 next week. Carolina now 3-3. Richardson, 30 for 38, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Solid day for him. He was, wrecking his secondary.
Yeah, we talked about McDaniel. He had 9 catches, 151 yards, and that long 63-yard touchdown. Listen, I think secondary, and we talked about how the linebacking core has really kind of stepped up for Chicago. We had 2 sacks on the defensive line. I feel like, listen, if the secondary plays well, we win games, and we've seen it before. We went on that run, we were 4 in a row. Secondary's essentially playing their asses off. If they don't, I feel like that becomes an issue, especially like I said last week. This is a passing league. If we can't stop the pass, that becomes a huge problem down the line.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble if you can't stop the pass because Heath McDaniel Jr., 9 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Rochelle Colston, their best defensive player, was just all over the place in this game, had 9 tackles in the game-winning interception. Next opponent is Denver, a big game for Carolina. They will be playing Denver at home, who is 5-1. So, if they win that game, they're going to have a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Denver next. Listen, Denver's the team to beat right now. Denver is that team. We talked about Atlanta in the beginning of the season, having that target on their back. Denver is that team right now that everybody's aiming for because they're the best right now.
Yeah, they're on fire, getting another win to improve to 5-1, beating Arizona 34-24. Ashley Jackson, another rough outing. I thought their best player was Eddie Gage, who had 2 interceptions and 9 tackles. In the third quarter, when Eddie Gage makes those 2 interceptions, you think they have a chance, but Denver, they just couldn't convert, and Denver walked away with the game. McChesney, a great game, had a 58-yard touchdown run, and Denver's offense, the best in the league.
518 yards total offense for Denver. Josh Miller, 361 in the air. Like I said, there's only so many superlatives I can give out for Denver. They are the best in the NFL right now. And they're the upper echelon of this league right now.
The next game, which was another great game, Baltimore versus Louisiana. Louisiana winning 35-23 to improve to 5-1. Ivory for Baltimore, another 19 reception game, but the real story was Reggie Streeter.
Yeah, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns. Luther Gaunt, too, 3 sacks on defense for Louisiana. Listen, it's they're close. I mean, we have Denver on one level, and I think all the other 4-2 teams are on a different plane. When you drop down from Denver, I think Louisiana is that next level below Denver among those 4-2 teams. So I feel like right now you have Denver, and then you got Louisiana leading the pack for everyone else right now.
Yeah, and Baltimore, big news today, their quarterback retired. It just seems like these retirements are coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, you texted me, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
today? Like, did
Yeah.
this happen? But it's a lot of change in this league, and we're talking from a team that experienced some change recently, so it's a lot happening in this league right now. So it's up to the coaches, up to the coordinators, up to the players to kind of keep all those changes as next man up at this point.
And it's also with Louisiana. I just want to take a moment and wish everybody, hopefully they can be safe as they can be. And then also in Texas too, with the hurricane, please stay safe, please evacuate if you can. And let's just hope this storm isn't as bad as they're saying it is going to be.
Yeah, just be safe. If you got to leave. Get out of there. Don't stay. Material things are not worth lives at this point.
In the next game, Fort Worth, this was my womp game of the week. Florida winning 30-10. Xander Gold had a horrendous game, throwing 5 interceptions. Shout out to Tobin from Florida, who had a 97-yard interception return. And Steve Hacker, even though Fort Worth lost, he had 11 receptions and 111 yards.
Yeah, I was going to put this in my womp too. It's just, Fort Worth struggled.
Yeah,
I thought they would be a lot better than they would be. Just saying.
Yeah.
It was just a dominant performance from Florida all around. 97 yards. That's one thing I don't see a lot of. I don't see the really long returns in the league. 97 yards is extremely impressive for Ryan Tobin. So, kudos to him for going 97 yards and going to get that oxygen afterwards.
And the final game of the week, Jacksonville traveling to Charleston, winning 23-17 to improve to 4-2. Christian Christensen only threw for 105 yards, and they still got the victory.
Yeah, I saw that number at the end. I was like, wait, that's it? That's all he had?
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, you have Jarrett Willis getting 181 yards on the ground. You really don't need to throw the ball a whole bunch. You don't need to get a ton of yards. Listen, but TD drew 330 yards. So they won despite giving up 330 to the opposing quarterback. So, listen, 105 yards is not a ton, but he got the win. At the end of the day, that's what's most important right now.
It is. TG Drew threw for 4 interceptions. Now moving on to league stats. Bryant's Dynasty is still leading the league with 2,080 yards, had over 350 yards this week. He continues. I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year. He's just had a phenomenal performance so far. Yeah,
and I say it every week. I'm like, Dynasty, after those first 2 games, I think you definitely see him kind of coming to his own. The big thing with Atlanta, and I say it all the time, the running game. Holland's doing a great job of catching ball at the backfield, but they have to establish a running game to control the clock. Dynasty's doing well, but you can't depend on Brian Dynasty for the entire season.
And Matt Wilson went 27 for 29 this week, is at 2,040 yards. And Josh Miller from Denver at 2,033. So those 3 quarterbacks are within 50 yards of each other. They're very, very close. And those are the 3 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, you're talking about the top of the league right now. Everyone else is trying to chase those guys. We saw Wilson in week 1 and what he can do, and we're going to go talk about the QBR next. Wilson is, in my opinion, I think he might be the best quarterback in the SFL at this very moment right now.
Yeah, it's Sully Richardson, 1,910 yards, and A.J. Caswell from Sussex Falls, 1,898 yards. Yeah, and as we move to QBR, Matt Wilson, top of the league with 103.8 QBR. And I would agree with you. I think he is the best quarterback in the league right now, just clicking on all cylinders. That's a team to watch out when we get to playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we get them in the playoffs, if we make the playoffs, I don't want to be presumptuous and assume that we're going to make playoffs. If we get to the playoffs and Mexico City's on it, we have some unfinished business after the week 1. I'm just going to be flat out. The ass kicking they gave us in week 1. But to get to them, we got to get to Matt Wilson. So Matt Wilson is going to be that X factor if we see them again, hopefully in the playoffs.
E.T. King still in second place at 100.8 QBR. A rough outing this week. His QBR continues to drop, and it's just and it's probably because we're running the ball so much. But hopefully, we'll see a little change this week.
Yeah, I think with him, he's what I've noticed the last 2 weeks is he's a kind of a rhythm passer, and I feel like you have to get him in rhythm. I feel like us running the ball so many times, even though it is successful, I feel like it takes King out of rhythm, and then we kind of force him to throw the ball more later in the game. And he's in and out. Okay, I'm going to hand the ball off, I'm going to throw. I feel like he's more of a rhythm quarterback, and he has to throw the ball consistently, and not 50 times, but just more, just to get into a rhythm with his receivers, his running backs, fullback, everyone else.
Bryant Dynasty coming in at third with a 100.2 QBR. And Johnny Pickle, who hasn't been in the top 5 all season in QBR, now is there, 98.2. Thought he had a little bit of a slow start at the beginning of the season, but has really found himself. And, with Reggie Streeter complimenting him, that's a very dangerous offense.
Yeah, the quarterback I always heard about before I kind of got involved in SFL was Johnny Pickler. And I think these last few weeks, you're starting to see that name, and you sort of see the legend of Johnny Pickler start to kind of develop again, and his aura grow week by week for Louisiana.
Josh Miller from Denver with a 96.1 QBR, rounding out the list. Now moving to rushing. Reggie Streeter right there. Best running back in the league right now. The past 2 weeks, he's been unbelievable. Almost at 1,000 yards through 6 games with 941.
Yeah, I feel like what helps Pickler in Louisiana is to have a good running back. You have good receivers, but Reggie Streeter as a running back, you keep the opposing defense so kind of shook and not knowing what's next. I feel like Streeter does that for Louisiana and does that for every team that they face.
Coming in at second is Jarrett Willis from Jacksonville. As we talked about before, 181 yards this week, 2 touchdowns. If Jacksonville, if they can't pass the ball, he's a guy they're going to look to, and he does the job well.
I mean, 105 yards is a lot. But listen, if you don't have to throw the ball, don't throw the ball. That's where I'm at. Like, whatever floats your boat and whatever makes you win games, that's what you go. That's what you go with.
In Sussex Falls of Colin Hart with 763 yards. I had said at the beginning of the year, I think it was maybe week 2 or 3, that if you can hold Colin Hart to under 100 yards on the ground, you can beat Sussex Falls this week. They did not in Tulsa, and Sussex Falls ended up winning the game.
Yeah, I thought Colin Hart, McChesney, also big name.
Yep.
Once again, too, I feel like if you shut down McChesney, I feel like you shut down the Denver offense. Quick question, and here's a legit question for you.
Okay.
To you right now, looking at these numbers, looking at yards, we're going to talk about touchdowns next. Who's the best running back in the league right now? Because my money's on McChesney, even though obviously he doesn't have as many yards as Streeter. But I feel like there's something about McChesney and his versatility that makes him number one. But to you, who do you think is the best running back in the league?
I honestly think it's Reggie Streeter, not just because he's at the top of the leaderboard, but just because he's an absolute beast out there and really carrying that offense with Louisiana right now. Over 200 yards this week. I don't get me wrong. I think McChesney's great, and he's due for over a 50-yard rush every game. But I just think the best running back in the league right now is Reggie Streeter, and he's showing that week in and week out.
Okay, I was curious about that.
DJ Moses from Arizona rounding at the list at 748 yards. Touchdowns, Reggie Streeter and McChesney. Reggie Streeter with 11 and McChesney with 10. They're obviously top 3 running backs in the league. They're the 2 best, and multiple players tied at 7. Now moving to receiving, Mike Daggs again. Him and Gabriel Manning are fighting for that 1 and 2 spot. Mike Daggs at 767 yards as a tight end. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, we see in this league, the tight end position is stacked in this league. We saw Daggs in week 1. We saw Gabriel Manning week 2. 2 names that just bring horror to my heart. Those are the 2 big names, 2 big receiving names in this league. Tight end, I feel like, is one of those positions that are starting to become more and more prevalent in high-functioning, high-powered offenses now.
It is, and the connection between Mike Daggs and Wilson is just unbelievable. Ivory Irving at third. That's his second time this year. He's caught 19 receptions. He's at 674 yards. They really feed the ball to him, but I think that's also dangerous too because, teams are going to focus in on that. And, if you can't get your other receivers involved, you're not going to have a good day on offense.
Every major team that's won championships, it'll be SFL, it'll be NFL, it'll be CFL, they have multiple weapons at wide receiver. I feel like right now, Irvin's doing a great job. But like you said, these coordinators looking at tape, and these coordinators trying to figure out, okay, if we can shut down Irvin, we have to force Baltimore to find someone else. The question becomes, if Irvin does get shut down, who's that next option that's going to step up and become that go-to person? There has to be a second person besides Irvin on Baltimore.
Yeah, this brings me back to the 2017 AFC Championship game, Pittsburgh traveling to New England. Antonio Brown, that guy on Pittsburgh, they really had no one else. And the Patriots shut down Antonio Brown, and the Pittsburgh offense could not get going that day. So really, Baltimore is going to watch out with that. Now we move to Boo Chisholm from Atlanta, 597 yards. That connection's very good with him and Bryant Dynasty. And Vin Kalia rounding out the list with 595 yards. Touchdowns, Mike Daggs leading the league with 8 touchdowns. But a surprising one is BDG Hollywood, who caught 3 touchdowns this week, is tied now with Gunnar Lewis for 7 touchdowns. And that's the first time BDG Hollywood is in the top 5 for touchdowns this year.
Yeah, Hollywood out of the backfield is a crazy weapon to have for a quarterback, and not so much has like a dump off type situation. He's someone that can run a really good pattern, get out in the open field, and just make guys miss. So a lot of times, she running backs has like that 4th, 5th option. Hollywood's could be a number 1 option, and he does such a great job out of the backfield catching the ball.
James Matthew Jr. from Queen City and Logan Keel from Denver, both tied with 6 touchdowns. Moving to defense, total tackles, Brody Goetz still leading the league. He's been at the number 1 position every game this week. A great pick by Houston for the rookie linebacker.
Yeah, of those 72 total tackles, 56 solo. So It's not just him kind of coming up on tackles at the end. Most of these tackles are just him. So he's amazing at the position that he plays right now, linebacker.
Yeah, and Aaron Lee from Atlanta with 69 total tackles. Mel Davis from Portland, 68 total tackles. I thought Mel Davis really did a good job, sealing up the holes this week against Houston and allowing for the Portland offense to get back on the field and to make that comeback.
Yeah, I feel like you need, and we have Aaron Lee as a safety, but I feel like linebacker is one of the most important positions. Like we have Clint Hendershot, who I think is the leader of our linebacking core. I feel like linebacker is that one position where you need one set guy that's going to lead the defense. And you have Gulch, you have Davis, who does amazing jobs at what they do.
And then Josh Reese from Charleston, a person who we'll see this week, safety with 65 total tackles, and Drew Hamilton from Vancouver finishing off the top 5 with 62 total tackles. Now sacks, Hunter Norwood with 11 sacks, still leading the league, and that's a formidable defense Jacksonville has.
11 sacks in 6 weeks.
I said 23. I think I said 22 or 23.
You did.
Too. He didn't have any sacks this week, so it's kind of making me a little bit nervous that prediction's going to be wrong.
But the fact 11 sacks in just 6 games is that's nothing to kind of just, oh, yeah, that's cool. That's a lot of sacks, meaning teams are focusing on him, and he's still able to get his numbers. He didn't have a sack this week, but he's still able to kind of get to the quarterback, and teams are focusing on him now.
And Duffy from Queen City is not far behind with 10.5 sacks. So those 2 players really through 6 weeks have been dominating the trenches and really doing a good job getting to the quarterback. Troyer from Denver and Sawyer from Las Vegas, both tied with 8 sacks, and multiple players tied at 7 sacks. Now interceptions, Headslett from Tulsa and Jack Russell from London, 6 interceptions, making it very, very hard for quarterbacks throwing towards them not to be intercepted.
You almost want to stay away from those guys. You talk about Revis Island years and years ago.
Yep.
When you see those guys on the field and you don't want to kind of even go near their side, go near them because that ball's in danger of going the other direction. So if you have shutdown guys in secondary that can pick off quarterbacks, that cuts up a whole side for you right there.
Yeah, and, if you have a shutdown guy, they're not going to, the defense doesn't have to focus on that side of the field, like you just said. So they can, maneuver their safeties around, focus on other receivers, and really shut down the whole wide receiver and tight end core. Multiple players have 5 interceptions, and Evan Arthur still leading the league with 2 touchdowns. Now offense, Denver and Atlanta still the top of the league. Denver with 2,800 yards and Atlanta with 2,500 yards. And Denver, they're just unstoppable right now, and teams have not really found that, play set or scheme to really stop them.
Yeah, here's my issue with offense, and I'm a defensive guy, obviously.
Yeah.
I feel like of these 5 offenses, defensively, as a defensive person, we saw Mexico City in person. We saw Atlanta in person so far this year. Um, I think not obviously the Denver offense. I think the Mexico City offense is something to be afraid of. And for what I've seen as of late, I think the Baltimore offense might be considered one of the best offenses in the league as well. I really do think, even though Denver's top of the list, I think Baltimore and Mexico City might have some of the best offenses in this league right now. Atlanta's close, but I definitely feel like Baltimore and Mexico City is like top notch, cream of the crop offensively right now.
Yeah, I just don't think Atlanta's balanced enough on offense. Most of their plays are coming through the air. So I think Baltimore, Mexico City, and Denver have much more balanced offense than Atlanta does.
Yeah, we talk about the running game. Atlanta needs to establish some type of running game at some point.
They do.
Throwing the ball's great, but you have to run the ball.
Yeah, and we'll see how that goes at the latter part of the season. And Louisiana at the top 5, finishing that off with 2,410 yards. Defense, Fort Worth, didn't have a great week on defense, but still leading the league, 1,763 yards. Chicago's still number 2 with 1,922 yards. They stopped the run this week, but Chicago just was not able to stop the pass.
Yeah, our defense, the issue with our defense, I think this week has been, we talk about running, getting at the quarterback. We got 2 sacks this week, and it was great, but I think we need to put more pressure on these quarterbacks, which kind of forced them to throw the ball earlier, which kind of sets up turnovers, and maybe not put as much pressure on our secondary, because I'm going to take the hit for our defensive line. We're not getting to the quarterback fast enough, and we're giving a lot of time to throw the ball and giving these receivers a lot of time to get into their patterns, into their cuts, and the quarterback's able to get into those progressions so much easier and so much slower because he has all the time in the world to throw the ball. So I feel like that's the big thing for me, and I'll take the hit for this one. I feel like we have to get to the quarterback more every single game than just twice.
Yeah, it's something you're going to have to do this week against Charleston. Carolina, both Carolina teams, Carolina at 55 yards and Charleston with 2,109 yards. Charleston started the year off rough. Their defense is playing horrible. They're 2-4 right now, but their defense has really come together and now top 4 in the league.
It wasn't, 3 weeks ago where you told me Charleston needs to win this game.
Yeah.
This needs to happen.
Yeah.
And listen, they're 2-4, but you're starting to see you see life from them that you didn't see early on. So I definitely agree with your defense definitely come on, and it's kind of been the leader of this team at this point.
Yeah, and Charleston still has a chance. Don't get me wrong. With like 9 teams tied at 3-3, they're like one game behind that, so they're still in it with 6 games to go. And Louisiana defense, that ball hawking secondary, they've only allowed 2,130 yards.
When we talk about our secondary, you talk about Louisiana secondary. We're talking about a tale of 2 secondaries over the last couple of weeks. I feel like Louisiana's, no matter where you throw the ball, there's danger there. And I feel like that's going to be the mark of Louisiana defense going forward.
Yeah, and looking at points per game, the teams you mentioned, Mexico City and Baltimore, coming in at 3-5. Denver obviously leading the league. Louisiana in second. But, Mexico City and Baltimore really aren't that far behind from Louisiana.
Yeah, and like I said, we saw Mexico City firsthand in week 1. And I think this is the team I could talk most about because that's the game I looked at as like, oh, God, what just happened? You talk about balance, and I think they have that balance. They have that, that Wilson. They got Dag. It makes their offense is just really, really good. I know I'm harping on Mexico City heavy, and if anyone from Mexico City is listening, we still owe you. But their offense is just so damn good.
Yeah, and Sussex Falls at 4th place with 29.6 points per game. Moving on to defense, Arizona, allowing 34 points this week, but still leading the league in points allowed per game. So, if they can really get that offense going, I think their defense complements that, and they'll be set to go.
And you said it. I know they had quarterback play that's been kind of shaky as of late, but the defense kind of held it together for them, and was really keeping them in these games. So I think if the offense kind of picks it up and Ashley Jackson, gets back to where she's used to being, I feel like they have a team that can kind of wreck anyone's season. The defense did a great job of keeping them in these games at this point in the season.
Uh-huh. At Chicago, allowing 20.33 points per game. But, even though we lost this week, we only allowed 17 points. That ain't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a silver lining in this. I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I think we're still stopping the run pretty well. We're not. It's just listen. We have some lapses occasionally, and I think once you get those lapses out of the way, we'll be good to go.
Queen City allowing 20.5 points per game. St. Louis had allowed only 3 points in the last two games. Both games only allowing 3 points, but allowed 23 points this week. But they're still in fourth place, and Louisiana's defense has only allowed 22 points per game.
Both those teams only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns all season.
Yeah.
We talk about this league being passing, but 3 rushing touchdowns in 6 games allowed is not a stat to just look at and kind of poo-poo. It's actually really good.
Now moving to power rankings. I'll start first. I had Denver as number one. They're 5-1 still, and they won again this week. So there's no way I'm moving them out of number one. Their offense is obviously we've talked about before, doing really well, and I think they're just a little bit over Louisiana and being the better team.
Yeah, I think our first 3 are on point. Like I said, I think Denver's kind of above everybody right now. If like Denver's by themselves, and I feel like Louisiana is that next level below Denver, leading that 4-2 slot. Sioux Falls right underneath them too. So I think we're top 3. We're good right now. We're on point.
Yeah, Louisiana, I have second. There's no stopping Reggie Streeter right now, and I'm not going to remove them from the second spot. I mean, I can't wait to see this week, if he gets stopped, but I really don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't either. From what I've seen the last couple of weeks, especially, no one's stopping him probably for the rest of the season, let's be honest.
Yeah, in Sussex Falls, we both had at 3. I thought they played a phenomenal game this week. Colin Hart obviously doing very well on the ground. And then the time of possession was absolutely ridiculous how much they held the ball for.
Yeah, I feel like if you can control the ball like that every single week, you're going to win. I feel like that's over a 20-minute advantage they had. If you can do that every single week, run the ball efficiently, pass when you need to pass, you're going to win a lot of games. And they kind of gave everyone else in the league a blueprint on how to win in this league.
So I had Chicago at number 4. I had them at 3 this week, and this is not biased. It's no, it really isn't, because only losing 17-9, you were in it until the end. I'm not going to remove them from the leaderboard. I really don't think Chicago, had that bad of a game. Yeah, the offense did, and I'd like to see more from them this week. Now, if the same performance happens again, they're going to be out of the top 5 for me.
So I took them out, and here's the thing. I think with Baltimore, I'm at Baltimore at 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came down to Chicago and Mexico City. Now, the last couple of weeks have been a little sketchy. We played better this week, but we did fall this week. Mexico City played well. They won their game, and they actually beat us head-to-head. So I took that into account and put together my power rankings, and that's why I got Mexico City in our top 5, and I had to take us out of the top 5 just based on the head-to-head matchup that we had with them. Even though it was week 1, and trust both teams completely different from where they were in week 1, but just for that reason, I put Mexico City over Chicago inside.
Yeah, that's a fair point right there, and I'm not going to go against that at all. I just think Mexico City's defense has been a little shaky this year, and I know they beat Vancouver this week, but they're my 6th place team. I had to put Baltimore ahead of them because I think Baltimore has a much better defense than they do, and a little better on offense, but maybe that will change this week with the new quarterback Baltimore is going to have. We'll see what happens this week. But I just have Baltimore ahead of Mexico City.
Well, can we talk about? I mean, let's go back to early last week up to today, and everything that's happened in this league in the last week plus. It has been a kind of a crazy week or so in the league. So it's a lot of upheaval. Can't pronounce that word. A lot going on. Guys being gone. We had the death of Vancouver. It's just a lot going on in this league right now in the last week plus.
Yeah, I think this week has been one of the hardest weeks I've seen in the SFL league wide. 2020 has been the worst year I've ever lived in. I mean, it's been awful with everything going on with COVID. Now, Rich Pratchard sadly dying. I mean, it's the year is just been awful, and I think we just need to come together as a family. Just don't hate on each other, and you know, we'll be fine. But it's been a rough week for the SFL, and I applaud Cam for the production this week. I know the loss of Rich heavily affected him, but he came out and still produced the show. So I just want to thank Cam for doing that, and just we got to stick together as a league and be there for each other.
Definitely, and it's just listen. We're all people that come together, and we have a love for this league, and I feel like the love really has to reflect more than ever now because of what's going on and just everything going on in this league last week or so.
Yeah, we will finish up the show with our keys to victory for Chicago versus Charleston. Khalil, what are your keys to victory this week?
Throw the ball. I think you have to get E.T. King into a rhythm early, get him downfield. The weapons, and listen, we had Chase, we had Soda. You had a catch. I think you had a catch or two in the game.
Yeah, I had one reception this week. Colonel Sanders was out there. That's the way we nicknamed him.
It's like if we get him going early, and then start feeding Johnson. I feel like you get King in early, we'll be good to go. Defensively, we got to attack the quarterback, and the secondary has to play better. And like I said, it was only like a couple of plays last week that kind of beat us in secondary. Take those plays out, it's a closer game, and we might pull it out. And then Rob Ems, listen, you blocked your kick. That does not count in my book as a missed kick. You're still the best kicker in the league. No. That does not count. You're still awesome. Kick some field goals.
Yeah, I blame the blocking on that. And I think I was out there for that, so I do apologize for not blocking better.
So, Rob, blame Ben. It's all Ben's fault you got blocked.
It's all my fault. I think this week's key to victory is stopping Swearingen. They use him a lot out of the backfield, and I think T.D. Drew is due for a couple interceptions. So if you can stop Swearingen and force errors out of T.D. Drew, I think we'll be fine. And I agree with you. I really hope we don't run the ball 37 times or 36 or whatever it was. That's just not a game plan you should use every week. Get E.T. King, like you said, in rhythm, and I think we'll be fine. We're at home this week. My prediction is Chicago 31, Charleston 13.
Ooh, 31-13. I'm going to go with 27 Chicago, and I'm going to go 14 Charleston.
Okay. I really do think the defense bounces back this week. I know you guys are probably very angry about what happened last week, and you're going to take it out on the Charleston offense, I hope.
Listen, I got a sack last week. I want 2 this week. I want to be like Cheeseburger, get some sacks. I'm going to go eat this week.
Yeah, dude, you've had a great season so far. You didn't have a sack in the first game, but every other game since you've had 1. So 5 sacks. It's great for a rookie, and you're doing a hell of a job on the defensive line. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the show. I hope everybody has a safe and good week, and let's get ready for week 7 of SFL football. Have a good night.